Talking F1 with Steve, Neil, and the Gov. Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your Wednesday night pit stop, the home of Talking F1, the show for the fan of F1 by the fans of F1. If you're an Formula One fan, if you're a Formula One diehard, maybe just a dip in, dip out, or maybe like myself, a brand new fan to the sport, this is the show for you, puts you firmly in control of the narrative. You can have your say on any F1 opinion, ask any question you like to do with Formula One. There's a live chat. If you're watching on catch up, there's obviously the chat box. You can put your comments in. But if you are watching live, we would invite you to get involved, have your say, and you could even appear on the show just by asking for the link. As I said earlier, we are a podcast as well. So we are on podcast platforms. You can find us Talking F1 on anywhere you normally get your audio downloads. So no race, no show last week, but we got a couple of items on the agenda this week for you. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. But as I've said, if you've got anything you want to say, any question you want to ask, get involved, have your say. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, and let's get rocking and rolling into tonight's show. The aficionado, Stephen Thompson.
No, I think Bottas he'll be the one to really hold out.
Good evening, Mr. Thompson. How are you, sir?
Evening. I'm very well. Yourself?
Good, man. I am very well. That is a fine mane of hair this evening, Steve. You're looking majestic.
Thank you. It's gone fluffy. It's been in a ponytail all day for work, and I've taken it out, and it's now fluffy.
You look like a lion, a young lion with a mane that's just there.
I don't feel like a young lion anymore.
No. You're feeling a bit old.
I'm feeling a bit old and creaky at the minute, so
yeah. What, 21?
Sure, I wish I'm 29, mate.
29? 33,
29.
mate. Try that. 33, a father of 3 kids. Well, 2 kids, one on the way. I'm as knackered as they come. Literally.
Fair play. Yeah, you got the edge on me there.
I got coffee. Even coffee just laughs at me now and says, "You want us to do what?" No chance.
We're not good for you anymore.
You're gonna wake you up? No chance.
Yeah.
But we're here. We missed last week, obviously. How have you spent the last 7 to 14 days? No Formula One. Nothing on in that front rear. We've got some talking points, of course. But how have you spent the downtime? Obviously, the driver's spent their downtime in many different ways. How has the aficionado spent his downtime?
Unfortunately, I can't afford to spend my downtime like some of these F1 drivers can. I've still got work as well, so that does put a bit of.
So are you working in Monaco on a yacht or anything?
Unfortunately, no. My yacht's in the garage at the minute being fixed up, so I haven't got access to it right now. No, I have been spending my time working mainly and just pottering around the house, doing a bit of housework here and there, a bit of gardening when the weather's allowed. Now that's turned, and playing things like Formula One on the PlayStation. So
love it, absolutely.
My F1 fixed somehow.
Got to get the F1 fixed somehow. When you were saying off air, you brought a certain legend out of retirement into your team because you got a Legends pack or something. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a Legends pack you can get for F1 22, and it's got drivers like Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, Coulthard, Massa, and Button in it. I'm in my 3rd season now of my team career, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go all out here. He's a free agent, so I bought Jenson Button back out of retirement, which is.
And how's he doing for yourself? Surely he's hitting the big heights, and you're loving him.
Yeah, not so good. 3 races in, he's got 8th and 9th. So I'm going to blame it on the fact he's been out of F1 for a while and he takes some time to get up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, excuse my phone glare.
You're right. Take away on the way.
No, I wish. I absolutely wish it was a take around the way. No, that's just my phone goes off 24/7. Apologies there. I thought it might have been George Russell inviting me to his bike ride. Did you see the video of George?
I didn't know.
On the bike, literally, I think he was trying to get into the conditions for, is it Singapore?
Yeah, Singapore coming up, yeah.
He just sweated out. Must have been his body weight in liquid. If you've not seen the video, go and check it out. He's on the bike, and it's just pouring off him. Just because obviously he's trying to get his body in the condition for that. Is he trying to replicate the conditions?
I wouldn't be surprised because it's a very tricky circuit. It's probably one of the toughest races of the year. You know, the humidity is through the roof. Grosjean, I think, once reckoned he lost, it was either 4 or 6 kilos in body weight throughout the race, just obviously purely through sweat. And it does take its toll on the drivers. It's one of the rare races now you see where the drivers can get out of the car just dripping in sweat and they're physically exhausted. You know, you don't see that a lot compared to how you used to. But it's one of those rare circumstances now, one of those rare events, really.
I'm trying to find the video, but I think I saw it on Twitter. So just head there and find it. But it was a fascinating sort of 20 seconds where he's just pedaling as fast as he can, but he's just fucking sweating. And I'm thinking,
Nice.
he must have sweated out at least 3 George Russells. He must have done.
Just because he's going to turn up half the size he was.
Yeah, absolutely. But it got me thinking, because obviously, from my perspective, being a new fan, you turn up to these different places in the world, you just sit in a car, you drive it as fast as you can, you win or you don't, and that's it. I don't see, and maybe other fans don't see that sort of that prep work, that back, a bit like creating a podcast, I guess, that prep work, that work behind the scenes, like sitting on a bike for XYZ in a condition of humidity. To replicate the condition. We don't see that, do we?
No, and it is good to see. You'll see things posted on social media and things about drivers who are, doing training regimes or putting themselves under certain conditions. I think it was photos of Charles Leclerc in an ice bath and things like that to try and harden up and train up for the weekend. And they go through a lot of stuff.
Was he diving for a strategy?
Their strategy ship has long since sunk.
Well, that's what he's looking for. In the remnants of the iceberg, he's trying to find the strategy. It's somewhere.
No chance finding that. That's melted. That's gone.
Right, let's complete the lineup with us. He is, of course, always positive. Mr. Positivity, Neil Mole.
Yeah, but we're crap. We're not going to dominate any team.
You like a good bike ride, don't you, Neil?
I used to. I haven't in a long while now.
No, you don't fancy doing an indoor bike ride in the conditions of Singapore, the humidity and the heat?
I think I'll pass.
You think you'll pass? You'll pass. How are you then, sir? You well?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good man. Good man. Did you hear about Jenson Button coming out of retirement?
No. What's this about?
Coming out of retirement just for Steve's my team on Formula One.
Yeah, it's not quite a proper return to F1 like I've been praying for 5 years. No, I've basically on the Legends Pack on F1 22 got him out of retirement to drive for my team. So it's not quite the same, but I'll take it. It's the closest I'm going to get to having Jenson back in Formula One, so I'll take it.
It is. How have you spent your thoughts? Oh, go on. Sorry.
Did you see any of the Goodwood revival?
I did.
He was racing. Was it Adrian Newey's Jag in one of the competitions, and I think he got about 20 seconds ahead of everyone else, and then there was a safety car, and then he got about half a minute ahead of everyone else, and then he had to pit for swapping with Adrian Newey's son, and then he came out, and then the gearbox blew up.
Oh no!
That's not a great. That's not a great.
I just couldn't believe how much quicker he was than everyone else doing the competition.
He's still got that speed, hasn't he? He's still an insane driver.
I don't know who is this Goodwood.
Hey,
No.
Festival of Speed. Goodwood Festival of Speed.
There's two. There's the Festival of Speed that's up that hill, the hill climb,
right.
And then you've got the revival where it's an old airfield, I think. It's a circuit on an old airfield, and they all dress up in period costumes and get all the old cars and.
Ooh la la!
Yeah,
it is
very
awesome.
nice. Yeah, very very nice. Speaking of awesome, I wanted to bring this up. Latifi, Williams. There's been a little bit of news, has there not, Stephen? Can we bring the news to the world and discuss it, please?
I didn't put it on the discussion points. I really should have done it. Well, after months of speculation and success, I suppose. No, it's been announced that unfortunately Latifi is not going to continue with Williams for 2023, which is probably the biggest surprise.
No,
it is a shock. I mean. He has 2.5 years of mediocre performance, one semi-decent result, and apparently that's not enough to save him. Well, what? He's finishing the points 2-3 times? He got Q3 at Silverstone this year. Fair play, that was good. He started at the back of the grid in Hungary, despite setting a purple Sector 1 and a green Sector 2. He threw it away at the last corner. And he scored points in Hungary last year. That was because Bottas went bowling. And the race after, he finished P9, I think. Maybe a little bit higher, I'm not sure. Because there was the race that wasn't a race in Spa. So it has not been the most successful of careers for Latifi. And I think the final nail in the coffin was Nick de Vries, wasn't it? That's got to have been Williams' final sort of, right, that's it. if you can't beat a guy who we've had to stick in the car with a day's notice, not even a day's notice, if you can't even beat him, that's
Geezer's having a cup of coffee 1 minute, on a plane, in a car the next. Don't write his CV for him, will you? Whatever you do, Steve. If you manage to bump past and he says, "Steve, please help me write my CV," don't do it, because you've just literally one semi-decent result, Neil. Is that a fair assessment of Nicholas Latifi's time at Williams?
I think he's being kind.
Yeah, I didn't want to say too much.
Tell me, Neil, how have you seen Latifi's time at Williams as an outsider looking in?
Pretty much Steve summed it up. He's done some okay performances. It's almost at the moment where you would really say, this is it, you've got to show yourself. He puts in an all right performance and you think, oh, maybe the team will keep me on a bit longer. And then, he just tails off again. It's just always fighting at the back. Whoever is in the car, the other car, just seems to be trying to fight for points. And he's just at the back the whole time.
I think one thing that did it for me was when it was Monza. Nick De Vries finished P9 on his debut, which was incredible. Such a good drive for him. And Latifi was saying, the car is tricky to overtake. It's a tricky car to overtake, but it's also tricky to overtake with. Well, no, because the other two drivers who've driven it have scored points in it, and they've been able to fight, and they've been able to get some good results. And it does make you wonder, really, could Williams maybe be challenging Aston Martin for P9 in the constructors if they had a second driver? If they had, for example, De Vries and Albon alongside each other, could they be getting more results than they actually are getting? Because Latifi has been holding that team down. So
what's going to happen now?
I think it's not a shock.
Who's the front runners to fill the seat?
I think it's one of the Williams juniors. I think it's Jack Doohan or Logan Sargent? I think one of those two stand pretty good stead. I would love to. I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to see Daniel Ricciardo come to Williams, but that's going to be a hell of a step back from him, especially from where he was a few seasons ago. Or Mick Schumacher if Haas are looking to replace him. But again, that's quite far-fetched, I think.
Do you think De Vries is going to Alpine?
I don't know. Alpine haven't really said much about that test they had, because they were testing. I think De Vries tested. De Vries tested. Giovinazzi, Colton Herta, and a few others as well. They've not really said much about it. Not say what transpired, what went on. I can't see De Vries going to Alpine. It's very widely believed that Gasly's going to be moving across.
Yeah.
I think I would love. I know Williams are keen on having De Vries in that seat, and I would love to see that. I think De Vries and Albon would be a good team. It remains to be seen.
If I'm honest, I think De Vries should just sign the contract now. I think he's come out and said he doesn't mind who he's driving for. He just wants to be on the grid.
Yeah, and that's the sort of attitude I think is. Well, that's what you want, isn't it? I'm not going to try and hold out for a better seat because it might not happen. It's taken him this long to get his F1 debut. This could be the last chance for him to get on the grid. If he's fussy about it, he's going to lose that chance. And Williams are a team that are slowly getting back. They're picking themselves up. They've got good financial backing. They've got good owners now. Jos Capito is a great team principal for them. The car isn't as bad as it seems because Albon is getting decent results out of it. It's just the other driver that's not. So they're a team that's on an upward trajectory. I think it's going to take a few more seasons to really sort of cement a place as a regular point scorer, maybe. But we'll see. I'd love to see De Vries in that car, though. I think it'd be brilliant. And it'd be great for the sport as well. He seems like such a nice guy. That interview after the Italian Grand Prix just seemed like such a nice guy. I could listen to him for hours. So, I mean, I don't know. This has been a crazy, silly season, and it's not even. We've still got a good few races to go, like 5-6 races to go, and there's 3 seats available realistically, with lots of drivers rumored to be in the running for them.
I know with Zhou and what's his name, but the 2 youngsters they've re-signed now for an extra year.
Sonoda and Zhou.
I like how they've been given a year extension. They're really backing them.
Yeah. The Red Bull driver program seems to be a different beast to what it was a few seasons ago. You had a season or two, right, that's it. You're not doing a very good job, so we're going to replace you with someone else. Whereas now, Sonoda took a year to get into Formula One, I think, and he's had some pretty hit and miss results this year. He's been better and more consistent, but I can't help but get the feeling that a few years ago, Helmut Marko may well have just said, right, it's not working, so we're going to get someone else. But there isn't really anyone who you think is ready to make the step up, certainly from the Red Bull Junior program. You'd have to look elsewhere. You'd have to look to for example, a Colton Herta or someone like that. Obviously, it's been confirmed that Colton Herta is not going to be granted the super license points and won't be getting into Formula One, which is a whole other argument that's been raging on Twitter for a while now. So I'm not surprised with Zhou, to be honest. I think he's been okay. He's been unlucky this year. Reliability issues haven't been great. The car's been a bit hit and miss, especially in the last half of the season. And he's been solid. So I think another year would be good for him.
Yeah, I think Zhou deserves the seat. I don't really think there's anyone that should be pushing him out. As for Sonoda, I think he's a little bit... I think he's underperforming, to be honest.
What makes you say that about Sonoda, Neil? Why is he underperforming? How is he underperforming?
I know the car's not been great this season because Gasly hasn't even particularly got much out of it. And he's had one of his off seasons compared to when everyone was raving about him last season. But Sonoda just seems to completely have gone off the boil. I couldn't tell you anything about him because he's never anywhere near the fight, is he?
No, that's it. Last year, you think, he had a couple of standout performances, especially fourth place in Abu Dhabi last year. But this year, you can't really think, Sonoda was great at that race. It's always been, all right, he turned up, he finished P9, did a good job, away he goes. Or he's been absolutely nowhere, been 16th, 17th, and fighting the likes of, the Astons and Latifi. So it's been a quiet year, so I am a little bit surprised, to be honest.
We've got Ian Barron who says, which old F1 driver could still do a job, do you think?
JB.
Well, you obviously think Jenson Button.
Be my boy. Jenson Button is incredible. Depends how old we're talking.
This is it. Only other one I think of recent would be like Kimi, who just stepped away.
I don't think Kimi could anymore.
You don't?
Why not?
He just didn't see it. Whether his heart wasn't in it or whether he knew it would be his last. Well, he knew it would be his last season in Formula One last year. I don't think his heart was in it anymore. He was still quick, but I don't know. I think the thing he made Giovinazzi look quite bad because when Kimi's in that sort of mental state, I suppose, where he thinks, right, it's my last season. I've been here. I've done it. Giovinazzi should be comprehensively beating him, but he wasn't. So fair play to Kimi. The only other driver I think he's been out of F1 for a couple of years, I think he can still do it given the machinery, is Hülkenberg. It may not be spectacular, but it would be consistent. That could be a team like Haas, for example. That could be exactly what they need: someone to consistently fight for points. Not pull out any shocks as such. But I think JB, if we're talking like successful drivers who've won races or championships.
Okay. €5 from David. David, thank you very much. Although the state of the pound, that's probably worth about 25p. Let's be honest. But we appreciate it all the same, David. Thank you very much, my brother. Welcome in. I'll probably keep that in a bank account until the pound rallies a little bit.
Invest that.
Absolutely. We love you, David. So what other seats are available before we move on to the other items on the agenda? What other seats do you expect to be available or come open? And who's your possible targets to fill those?
Well, there is only the two left, isn't there?
There's three guaranteed because you've got, supposedly you've got Williams, which obviously is guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh, is it Haas as well?
Alpine is guaranteed, and Haas possibly. Haas has got a seat which isn't technically filled yet because Kevin Magnussen is contracted for next year. Mick Schumacher isn't. AlphaTauri could have a seat available if Gasly moves across from them to Alpine. So I think the only one that is, well, the only two that are definitely cemented as having a vacancy are Williams and Alpine.
Unfortunately
There's a lot of
for
drivers.
Daniel, unless he gets the seat at Williams, I can't see him staying on the grid next season.
No. I think he has talked about a sabbatical as well and seeing what seats come available for 2024. The potential for a few more seats up the grid.
He's not an Alonso, though, is he?
No. We're still waiting for Mick Hakkinen to come back from his sabbatical. He never actually announced his retirement. He said he was taking a sabbatical in 2001, but never came back. So maybe Mika. I don't know.
So that's it. Has he done enough? Because he's the one that's up for grabs, right? He's the one that we don't know about. Because surely he's not done enough from my perspective. Like, young driver, but he's done nothing.
Mick Schumacher is tricky. You'd have thought that if there's the chance of having someone with that name driving for your team, then brilliant. But he has been more the name than the results. He's been quite inconsistent, especially alongside Kevin Magnussen, who's been out of F1 for a year. 2 years? No, a year, because in 2020 he left, and he missed out last season because of Mazepin. So you'd have wanted better results from him. And he's had some good results this year, some good qualifying performances and a couple of good races, but he's also had some pretty horrific crashes, namely Monaco, where he split the car in two, and Saudi Arabia, where he split the car in two. So as a Schumacher fan, I want to see him stay on the grid, and I want to see his name stay on the grid. But unfortunately, you're not just a name. You've got to have the results as well.
This is it. Neil, how about Schumacher for you? What are your thoughts on the young driver?
I wouldn't say he's had some lackluster performances, but on the other side, some of those incidents, like the Monaco one, I don't actually believe was his fault. I think there was a mechanical failure.
Yeah.
And that was early on. See, that can easily stand out because at that point, Haas was doing really well. Magnussen was getting solid points. And then suddenly they're slightly more inconsistent. They've tailed back a little bit, and they've had lots of engine failures and that sort of thing. And now they've sort of disappeared a little bit. But I don't believe that he's really done anything that doesn't warrant him being on the grid next season. But I guess if Haas really want someone else, then they'll push him out. I know Ferrari are dead set on basically pushing him aside. Is not done enough for them.
I'll take him at Williams.
Yeah, well, that's because you've got a low starting point, though, isn't it? Really, let's be honest. And you're in love with the Schumacher name.
Yeah, true. I think the tricky thing with Schumacher is that this is his first real year in F1 where he can actually fight with drivers around him. Last year that Haas was so poor, he could only really qualify on the back row of the grid, and he could only fight his teammate, and his teammate wasn't exactly brilliant. So
and Latifi.
This year, not even Latifi, because the Williams was far quicker than last year's Haas in Russell's hands. He did have a couple of fights, to be fair, with other drivers, but not very many. So this year he's got a car where he can compete with drivers around him, and he's got a teammate who is very, very quick and very solid. And the car's a lot different to last year. So I can give him a little bit of slack for that, But if he was to stay in F1 for next year with whoever and he was still underperforming, then you'd have to say, right, that's it. You've had a year being able to fight with more cars in this generation of car, and you're still not lighting it up. So time to move on.
I think William Magnussen as a teammate is good for him because it just means that he's got to push and move on from where he was. He had his first season that was he's always slow at whatever category he moves into first season. He's had that one behind him. And this season he's started to put some results in. He's tried to get some points and things, and I don't think he's done bad. And I hope to see him on the grid next season and he can just try and push on some more.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Williams to keep an eye on, Alpine and Team Haas. 5 minutes left to go on the show. Let's move on to the last item on the agenda, which, of course, is F1 announces 6 sprint races for 2023. Steve, tell us the news. Then Neil, give us the opinion.
Yeah, well, as it says on the tin, they haven't announced what circuits they're going to be at yet. But F1 has announced that next season there will be 6 sprint races, or 6 sprint weekends, across the calendar. Circuits, as I say, to be confirmed. You can probably get an idea of ones, considering where we've had sprint races recently. But it ups it from 3 this year and 3 last year. So I think the first 3 had Silverstone, Brazil, and somewhere else. And this year we've had, have we got still 1 left? I can't remember. But we had 1 in Austria, I think. Monza. Either way, there's been 3 this year, 3 last year. So now they're going up to 6 for next year. So some people are saying brilliant. Some people are saying that's too much. I think it's too much, to be honest. I like the idea of 3 sprint races a season.
Right.
But some people are dead set against it.
So you like less, you feel less is more, but it's going up to 6. Neil, Steve thinks less is more. What are your thoughts on it?
I've loved every weekend that we've had a sprint race. So even though technically it's not a race, is it? Or is it not a Grand Prix? There's some stupid wording that goes along with it. It doesn't officially count in certain circles. So
yeah.
It sounds weird, doesn't it? After that race, you've qualified on pole. What? Just raced and not qualified?
Yeah,
Strange.
and the qualifying is for the sprint race, and
there we go.
Yeah, because doesn't the pole position or in qualifying not properly count and all this, that, and the other?
Yeah, if you qualify on pole for the sprint, you don't get pole. You have to finish the race, the sprint race first to qualify on pole for the main event.
The whole thing's stupid, but yeah, the actual event itself and how it works is, I think it's good.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's good? You love every weekend it's involved, and Steve just thinks what, my man?
I just think that I like three or 4 I'd be happy with, because it sort of gives it's a bit of rarity. It only happens a few times a season. It's it keeps it a bit fresh. If you get a few races in between each, or quite a few races in between each, it does keep it nice and fresh, and it gives it a sense of unpredictability and a bit of difference, which I quite like. And I like the idea of a sprint race. I just think that 3 or 4 is plenty, especially seeing as that obviously they do offer points for the top 8. Last year it was only top 3. This year it's top 8. So it does add this sort of an extra sort of strategy sort of thing in the mix, considering championship fights. But 3 or 4, I think, is just fine.
Good man. All right. Well, there we go. We've covered all the options. Is there a race this Sunday?
There is Singapore.
Singapore, of course, as at the top of the show. So give me your top 3 as we round up. Don't forget, those that are watching, we're back again next Wednesday, 7:15. Steve will tell you before the end. And we're live again this evening, 8:30 for Ipswich Town's Talking Town Match Day preview. So join us at 8:30. Be your top 3, please, gentlemen, for Singapore. Neil, you first.
Max.
Mm-hmm.
Leclerc.
Yeah.
And let's go George.
Okay. Russell from Neil. Steve?
Leclerc, Sainz, and George.
Okay. Fair enough. How many races left of the season?
I think it's 5.
5 races left. Okay, let's say
6 currently, because Max can actually win the championship this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you see the details saying how he could potentially take it?
Yeah, I did. I haven't checked it out properly, but I've seen the information on it and stuff. So Max can actually leave this weekend, if all goes his way, as a double world champion. So
there you go. Wow.
Wow.
So 6 races left. One final question before I hand it over to you, Steve, to lead us out. Will Hamilton get a podium or a win to carry on that fantastic stat of his that we spoke about before the break? Steve?
No, not this season.
That'll be the stat. That'll be the streak over. Neil?
Unfortunately, I think his best opportunity is passed. So
never discount the go. I'm going to say yes, but that probably proves it.
Brazil, maybe.
Maybe.
They've been good there before.
Neil, Jason agrees with you, Neil. David, Leclerc, Verstappen, and Perez for David. Thank you very much, David. You get yours in the comment section. But Steve, over to you, my man.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Love all the comments, love all the chat going down. So it's great to be back. Obviously, it's been a couple of weeks. So as I've said before, we are on Twitter now. It's at Talking F1 Fans. So you can head over, you can give us a follow and stay up to date with what's going on in the world of Formula One. And we're back next Wednesday, 7:15, to review the Singapore Grand Prix. Will we be reviewing a double world champion? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. See you soon.